How's it going, everyone? Bass here. So with OTAs starting this week, actually starting today, but only being open to the media tomorrow and Thursday, I wanted to make a video on my way too early 53-man roster prediction. And obviously this is kind of a preliminary 53-man roster. With OTAs only starting today, we still have mandatory minicamp, training camp, preseason to go through until the Packers have to cut down to that 53-man roster. But today, I just wanted to give my prediction on what I think the 53-man roster will look like come September. And I'll definitely do a couple more of these as the offseason goes on and compare it to this one or the previous version, and just see what I would update, as we go through training camps, OTAs, and preseason, and all of that sort. So without further ado, let's get this started, and we're going to start on offense and at quarterback. And for quarterback, I have the Packers keeping 3. Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, Kurt Benkert. Now, obviously, Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, there's not much to talk about. Obviously, those two are roster locks. The question comes in is if the Packers will keep 3 quarterbacks in Kurt Benkert. I felt like they've kept Kurt Benkert around, shown priority to keep him around enough. That tells me they want to keep him on the 53-man roster and not allow another team to snag him off their practice squad. Now, if they wanted to add, say, another offensive lineman or defensive back or any position for that matter, they could drop Kurt Benkert here to the practice squad and just roll with 2 with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. But like I said, they've showed a lot of priority to keeping Benkert around in Green Bay, so I think they do want to keep him on the 53-man roster, and the Packers have gone into many seasons with 3 quarterbacks. So that's what I'm going with here for quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, Kurt Benkert. As for running back, I'm going with 4 total running backs. Again, the first 2 are roster locks. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. Don't have to talk about them. Kylin Hill, I thought showed great promise last year before tearing his ACL on that kick return. And speaking of kick return, he gives you value on special teams. I think he's a good all-around back and can fill in when needed as that 3rd running back. Kylin Hill, I still don't understand how he got drafted so late. I think the guy has a ton of talent. And could be the future at running back with A.J. Dillon if they were to move on from Aaron Jones after this year or whatnot. And then for the 4th running back spot, it was between Tyler Goodson and Patrick Taylor. Now, I did love I loved what I saw from Patrick Taylor last year. Bruiser running back, power back, runs hard. But I just think Tyler Goodson, in my opinion, has more upside. Personally, I don't know how he got undrafted. I thought he was going to at least be like a 6th rounder at the latest. So I'm really happy that the Packers got him as an undrafted free agent. And I made a video about Tyler Goodson explaining why he could be the next undrafted free agent to make the Packers 53-man roster, because every year, I think for the past 13 years or something like that, the Packers have brought an undrafted free agent onto the 53-man roster. Jack Heflin was last year, and I think Tyler Goodson will be the one this year. I think he's a very versatile back. He's a great receiver out of the backfield, a tough runner. Ran really good in college, so I really like him and the prospect of him. Now, obviously, probably won't be on the active roster much, but having him as a 4th running back with the potential he has, I think is great. So with running backs, I'm going with 4, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Kylin Hill, and undrafted free agent Tyler Goodson. As for tight end, I'm going with 4 as well, plus 1 on the PUP. And if you didn't know, obviously a player on the starting on the physically unable to perform list does not count towards the 53-man roster. And I have that on Bob Tonyan because as of right now, we don't know where he's at through this ACL recovery. Is he going to be ready for week 1? We really don't know. So as we're so far back right now, still in May, I'm just going to assume that he's going to start the year on the PUP and not count towards the 53-man roster. So that leaves 4 other tight ends. Mercedes Lewis is a roster lock. Josiah DeGuara, a roster lock. And then we obviously have Tyler Davis and Dominique Daphne. Tyler Davis, I think the Packers think a lot of. I've heard them talking about him a lot recently. They think they have something special in Tyler Davis, so I'm going to go ahead and believe that and say he's going to make the 53-man roster. Now, this could obviously change, and any of these positions could change if they go out and sign someone, if they sign, like, say, Jared Cook or someone like that. But as for right now, as the roster sits, Tyler Davis is on my 53. And then the 4th tight end, Dominique Daphne, kind of that H-back role, can play, fullback technically. I think they value him for certain packages and whatnot, so I have him on this 53-man as well. So we're going Mercedes Lewis, Josiah DeGuara, Tyler Davis, Dominique Daphne, and Bob Tonyan on the PUP. As for wide receiver, this is where it starts to get interesting. This was a very tough one for me, but I actually decided to go with 7 wide receivers, and I'll explain why in a second. So, of course, we have the usuals, the ones that are pretty much guaranteed to make this roster. Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Christian Watson, AMARI, Rodgers, Romeo, Doubs. Now, they did sign Sammy Watkins, and I think unless he does absolutely nothing this entire training camp and preseason, I'd say he's going to make the roster, but they don't have much guaranteed money into him. If they were to cut him, they really wouldn't lose much. I think he will contribute, and I think he will make this 53-man roster, but he's not a roster lock in terms of money value, so that's why I'm saying he's not, guaranteed to make the 53, but I have him making the 53. Sammy Watkins, I think he can contribute, could become a solid number 2. And then where it gets very interesting for me is with the 7th receiver, and SAMORI TOURE. I did a film breakdown recently on him. You can go check it out in the link above. And I really liked him. After watching that film, I thought he was a very, very solid route runner, a very good route runner, I'll say it that. And he looked like a veteran receiver running those routes. He looked really good at Nebraska, Montana, both colleges, against both levels of competition, against Ohio State, all that. I really like him, and I said this in the video. I am going to have a very hard time keeping SAMORI TOURE off the 53-man roster. So in this first preliminary, I'm keeping him on it. I'm going with 7 wide receivers, which the Packers don't do often, but I'm going to go ahead and do it just because Doubs, TOURE, and Watson all technically give special teams value as well. Watson can return kicks. Doubs can return punts. TOURE could probably return punts, I think, and he also could be a gunner. All these guys could be gunners as well. If they were to, say, not have TOURE and sign of another veteran receiver that a lot of people are clamoring for, like Julio Jones or Odell Beckham, those guys are not going to contribute at all on special teams. Whereas TOURE, Doubs, they both will. So that's why I think I value holding 7 receivers in this regard rather than that regard. So with wide receiver, I did indeed go 7. Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Christian Watson, AMARI Rodgers, Romeo Doubs, Sammy Watkins, and SAMORI TOURE. Offensive line, we have 9 plus 1 on the PUP, which is Elgton Jenkins. Same thing goes, as I said, for Bob Tunyon. Will he be ready? We don't know. Again, this is a preliminary 53-man roster. I'm going to assume he's going to start on the PUP. So then I'm going 9 other offensive linemen. Locks, obviously, being David Bakhtiari, Jon Runyan, Josh Myers, Royce Newman, and I'd even say, Yosh Nijman's a lock, and obviously they're 2 early draft picks, Sean Rhyan and Zach Tom, I believe, are locks. Then that leaves 2 other spots to equal that 9. I think Rasheed Walker, one of their 7th-round picks, I do believe he can make this roster. I think he's a solid tackle. And then Cole Van Lanen has tackle guard versatility. The Packers had him as an undrafted free agent last year, and he's been progressing. Obviously has a year to learn everything. I do like him making the roster over some of the other guys. I do like Cole Van Lanen out of Wisconsin and Rasheed Walker out of Penn State. And, of course, like I said, Sean Rhyan, Zach Tom, I think are pretty much locks. Zach Tom has that backup center versatility, kind of makes Jake Hansen expendable, and Zach Tom can also pretty much play any other position. And Sean Rhyan, I think, will slot into guard right away, and he could very well likely start at right guard over Royce Newman. It depends what they do at right tackle. If they were to slide Royce Newman out right, if they were to put Yosh Nijman out right, I mean, they could really put anyone out right. It's interesting. I'm going to be interested to see what they do. But nonetheless, I'm going with 9 linemen here, plus Elgton Jenkins on the PUP. Bakhtiari, Jon Runyan, Josh Myers, Royce Newman, Yosh Nijman, Sean Rhyan, Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker, and Cole Van Lanen. Now flipping over to the defensive side of things, starting down in the trenches. With defensive line, I'm going 5 defensive linemen here, and these are pretty easy. Kenny Clark, Devonte Wyatt, Dean Lowry, all roster locks. And then you just pretty much have 2 more. TJ Slayton, last year rookie. I honestly say he's a roster lock as well. And then Jarran Reed, the free agent they signed. I think he'll be a good rotational depth guy. So I have him as my 5th lineman over someone like Heflin. It just has more veteran presence. Has played a lot more snaps in their career, obviously. And I think 5 linemen is kind of a good number for the Packers on the defensive line. And I'm really happy with this unit. If it is, Kenny Clark, Devonte Wyatt, I'm really excited to see Devonte Wyatt. I think he's going to be a really good player year 1. I think he's one of the most pro-ready draft picks in the entire draft class. So I'm really, really excited to see him play next to Kenny Clark. And then Dean Lowry, above average year last year. Kind of a guy that's always average, but, does make some plays here and there. They could end up cutting him. I doubt they will, but just to save more money, because they're kind of okay on money right now. But they could end up doing that and say if they were to sign someone else. But as the roster sits, Kenny Clark, Devonte Wyatt, Dean Lowry, TJ Slayton, and Jarran Reed at defensive line. As for edge, I am keeping 5 here. I know the Packers like to rotate edge a lot. Obviously, the first, I would say, two are roster locks in RASHANGARY, Preston Smith. I would say ENAGBARE is a roster lock as well. I mean, they got him in the 5th round, but that dude, I mean, a lot of teams, or a lot of people, I should say, had him as, you know, 2nd, 3rd round talent, which I think ENAGBARE is a great player, and he will be good in the future. I don't know how much he's going to be able to contribute, you know, day one. And then the other two, I have GARVIN and TIPA. I loved what I saw from TIPA last year when he got called up to the 53. GARVIN's been a solid rotational edge rusher his entire career. Now, obviously, this could change. I recently made a video about the free agents the Packers could still target, one of which being Justin Houston. So if they were to sign someone like Justin Houston, you'd probably take TIPA off this list, throw him back on the practice squad. But as the roster sits right now, RASHANGARY, Preston Smith, I'm so excited to see RASHANGARY again this year. I mean, he blew up last year, and Preston Smith also a very, very solid year. And ENAGBARE, draft steal in the 5th round there. GARVIN, a really solid rotational guy, and TIPA has some great potential, what I saw last year. So I'm really excited to watch him too. But with edge, going 5 here. So for inside linebacker, I'm going with 4 here. I opted for 4 instead of 5. The Packers like to keep 5 a lot of the time. I opted for 4 here, and to cut ties with Ty Summers, just because he doesn't offer anything else other than special teams, and I know the Packers need to focus on special teams, but I think they can do that with other players. They drafted a couple guys that could easily replace what Ty Summers does, and also contribute on defense if need be. I don't like when Ty Summers is ever on defense. He's just not a good linebacker on defense. He's okay at special teams, so opted with 4 linebackers here. Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker, Chris Barnes, all roster locks in my opinion. Then Isaiah McDuffie, I think it was a 6th rounder last year at Boston College. I think he has potential to be, you know, a rotational inside linebacker guy, mainly a special teamer, but that's why I'm keeping him there. I think he could easily replace Ty Summers in special teams regard. So linebacker going 4, Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker, Chris Barnes, Isaiah McDuffie. So as for cornerback, I went with 5. I would have liked to go 6 here, but because I kept 7 receivers, I felt it was only necessary to go 5 cornerbacks here. Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, Rasul Douglas, Shamar Jean-Charles, all roster locks. And I actually went with Raleigh Tejada here as the 5th cornerback, undrafted free agent out of Baylor. I really like what I saw after I looked him up, after the Packers did sign him as an undrafted free agent. I think he could be a solid player. Now, obviously, he is an undrafted free agent, and he would probably not be active much, but I think he can contribute on special teams. He could fill in, you know, slot cornerback in a dire need. But the Packers could also add another cornerback. In that video I was talking about the free agents, Chris Harris Jr. is a guy, you know, very coveted slot cornerback the Packers could add, and at that point he would kind of be the 4th guy, and then Shamar Jean-Charles would be the 5th guy. Jean-Charles is the, I guess, future at slot for the Packers. Obviously, after moving on from Chan and Sullivan, they could put Jair in the slot in that star role, but I like Jair outside as a lockdown outside corner, but I get it. You know, get your best players on the field at once, and that would be Jair, Stokes, and Douglas. And Stokes and Douglas are outside corners, so putting Jair in the slot, that would be getting your 3 best corners out on the field at once. So I would understand if that's what they want to go with. So the first 3, obviously, you know, not much to talk about, roster locks. And then Shamar Jean-Charles and Raleigh Tejada are my other 2, rounding out the 5 cornerbacks. For the safety position, I am going with 4 safeties. I'm going with Adrian Amos, Darnell Savage. Again, those 2 roster locks. Tariq Carpenter, the Packers do have him listed as a safety on their roster, so that's why I'm considering him a safety here, even though I kind of see him more of that tweener inside linebacker guy. He's going to be mainly be a special teams guy anyway, so I guess it doesn't really matter where you list him as. Right now, this just makes it easier to have 4 safeties. I don't think he could really play a deep safety. I think he could surely play a box safety. And then Vernon Scott, a guy who didn't get any defensive snaps last year, surprisingly. I thought highly of him the year before, and I thought he'd take a second-year jump. Didn't happen, so I'm hoping maybe he can put it together this year in this offseason, get some quality snaps, and be kind of that rotational guy that if they need be, kind of like what Henry Black was last year, but maybe a little less snaps because they have players like Quay Walker and Tariq Carpenter now. So those are the 4 safeties I'm going with. Again, this is another position the Packers could add someone at, and then that person would probably replace Vernon Scott. But Adrian Amos, Darnell Savage, Tariq Carpenter, and Vernon Scott at safety. Then to round off this 53-man roster for special teams, no surprises here for punter and kicker, Mason Crosby, Pat O'Donnell. Those guys have seemed to have already bonded pretty heavily, so I doubt the Packers would bring in, or at least, choose another punter over Pat O'Donnell for the 53 unless he was really, really bad. But the only difference here is at long snapper. Instead of Steven Virtle, I went with Jack Coco. We haven't seen anything of Jack Coco, but what he's got going for him is he's not Steven Virtle. And Steven Virtle was really bad last year. I did not understand that move at all, signing him to play long snapper. I mean, he's the reason the punt got blocked in the playoffs. He's had multiple snaps bounce off the ground, high snaps on field goals. Just a very, very bad performance last year. So, like I said, I'm just going with something different, and that is Jack Coco, who they just signed recently as one of the tryout guys. They signed him to the 53-man roster. I think he should have no problem beating out Steven Virtle, so that's why I have him to round out this 53-man roster. Special teams, Mason Crosby, Pat O'Donnell, and Jack Coco. So that does it for my first 53-man roster prediction for the 2022 season. Not many crazy surprises here other than the fact that I'm keeping 7 receivers, 3 undrafted free agents in Riley Tejada, Tyler Goodson, Jack Coco. I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Is there anyone on this roster that you don't think will make it, or is there someone I left off that you think will be on the 53-man roster? Just leave that down in the comments below. And of course, if you want more Packers news, analysis, and updates, like I said, OTA starting this week, so be sure to be on the lookout on my channel for OTA updates and videos. Go down, click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and if you guys could also leave a like on this video, it supports my channel a ton. But that about does it for this one. I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, go Pack Go.